Hey, Dr. Mindock here. Let's talk about this year's high school technical etude for oboe, which is Fairling number 2, first fast one in the book. This one is quick, as are all Fairling fast etudes. My best advice for you is to just never play it faster than you can competently play it, which means you're going to play it slow for a while. Accept it, love it, live it. I've provided a slow recording for you to play along with. It might actually be too fast for a lot of you to start off with. So listen to it so you can kind of hear the innards of the piece, but start as slow as you feel comfortable and work your way up to that or to the full tempo, whatever is easiest for you eventually. But don't, like I said, don't play it faster than you're ready, because it's really easy with these fairlings to get excited and play like, oh, I can play this bar really fast, and then you hit this brick wall where things get hard, and then you just kind of fall into it, and then you practice in the slop, and then you can, it's hard to get that out once you've practiced it in. So practice in pristine, clean, accurate playing instead of fast, sloppy mess. Nobody wants to hear your fast, sloppy mess. No offense, but we don't. So take your time, go slow, put the eighth note click on actually, and that way you'll know exactly where to put every 16th. It'll also help you with this rhythm that's in this little motive of 2/16, a dotted 16th, and a 32nd. Dee-ya-dum, ba-bee-ya-dum, ba-bum. Dee-ya-dum, ba-bee-ya-dum, ba-bum. It's way easier to feel that with an eighth note than dee-ya-dum, ba-bee-ya-dum, ba-bum. You also have to watch out because it's really easy to spend too much time on that dotted 16th note. It kind of feels like a break compared to everything else. You've got this steady onslaught of 16ths going the whole time, and then, oh, finally, especially when the one's on the third line, finally I get this moment to collect myself. It's super tempting to hold it even longer, and you lose a lot of speed and time. So if you're using the eighth note click, da da dum ba ba da dum ba bum, it'll help you make sure that you get off of that note fast enough. The other thing that's tricky about that is that it's also really easy to not hold that note long enough in terms of making sure that the 32nd note after it is short enough. Because especially since that's a tongued note, that means you have two really, really close together notes that you have to tongue, ta-ta, 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 which is going to challenge tonguing speed for some of you. So again, practice slowly. Because if you practice faster than you can tongue that, you're always going to wash out that rhythm. And it's going to be more like a triplet or even like 2/8 if you're not careful. So you want to make sure that you go slow enough that you can learn the rhythm properly so that when you go faster, you're going to work harder to maintain the integrity of that counting. That makes sense, okay? The other thing that you can really pay attention to when you're going super slow, well, there's a lot of things, but another thing is that there's a lot of articulations in this. Yeah, it's all 16th notes, but there's 3/16 slurred together followed by a staccato. There's one staccato and two notes slurred, and then two more slurred across the beat. There's all these funny little patterns. And all those articulations are part of the music. They're actually what make this have its light, playful quality. This is a very kind of goofy little etude when you play it right, and the articulations are what give it that musicality. If you don't do the articulations, you're not playing the music. They're not just there to tick you off, I promise. Sometimes it may feel that way. Um, just there so teachers can yell at you for doing it wrong. No, they're there because it makes the music. It creates shapes that brings out certain types of harmony. It emphasizes certain notes and certain little bits of tension and dissonance and resolution and all kinds of stuff. So if we don't have those the articulations, it's not the right piece. So if you go really slow, you can pay attention to them. You're going to be less likely to play them wrong. You'll be slow enough that you can tell when you've messed it up. And then just as a tip for this, if you're not doing this already, recording yourself is a great idea, because that's the other way you can find out if you're doing something wrong. It's really hard to pay attention to everything when you're just playing and worrying about the 8,000 things we have to manage at one time as musicians. If you record and listen back, you can listen for specific things. Like, I'm going to play it back and listen to my articulations. I'm going to play it back, and here's another thing that's good for slow practice. Listen to see if I'm putting in extra bonus notes between my cross fingerings and some of these fast arpeggios, like when you go from A to C to E. It's really easy to put extra random B's and stuff in there, and no one wants to hear that. And you might not notice you're doing it unless you go back and listen to a recording. Okay, so those are all great things to iron out when you play slowly. And there's a lot of going on in this little etude. Now, another thing that'll help you with this is something that hopefully you're doing already as a good all-state auditionee, and that's knowing your scales and arpeggios, right? Because that's what we do, right? We're learning our scales and arpeggios so you can play them for the audition. But hey, We don't just learn them for that. We learn them for a reason because they help us play music better. And this etude is built on scales and arpeggios. That's everything that's going on in here. There are just straight scales in here. There's a great chromatic run right near the end of your excerpt that if you know your chromatic scale cold will be a piece of cake. And it's such a refreshing thing to hit when you're playing this. You're like, oh God, all these dotted notes. Oh, chromatic, yay. Phew. If you don't know your chromatic, it's terrible. So know your scales. There's a lot of hidden arpeggios and scales in here that if you can find the patterns will actually help you make sense of the music and make it easier to play. I'll point this out right off the bat. The very beginning, the first measure, you got accidentals, you got all these little funny rhythms, there's a low B in there, gah. But if you look at the skeleton, you've got a C, yeah, there's a B, but you come back to a C. It's followed by an E and followed by a G. What's that? Hey, it's a C arpeggio. And then you've got another G, F sharp G. That's a similar shape to that thing you had at the beginning with the C, the B, and the C. It's called a chromatic lower neighbor, okay? And so you have that G, F sharp G, and then you go back to another C and up to another E. Oh my God, you're playing a C arpeggio. Like that's all that is. You're playing a C arpeggio. And then if you look, if you keep coming back down, E, there's a B below the C, but that's just that chromatic lower neighbor. You come back to the C. There's an F sharp to a G, again, the chromatic lower neighbor. If you get rid of all those little lower neighbors, it's C, E, G, C, E, C, G, and then you've just got a straight C arpeggio up to the top. Piece of cake, right? And that's what this is. I mean, just kind of flip through it, look at the accidentals, kind of pull them away, and then look at what's there underneath. It's all easy stuff that you know. This is why the Fairleigh etudes are great, because they're built on things that are comfortable and familiar to us, but then they have these little interesting bits of color splashed in that make them interesting and fun. Cool? All right. The other thing about this, there's no dynamic marking changes, so you don't have to worry about carefully nuanced pianos or anything like that. Just keep it light and fun. And there's not really any long notes, so you don't have to worry about pretty vibrato or any of that other stuff. Really what you want to work on is playing cleanly and pristinely and accurately and staying in time and keeping your articulations honest, because that's the place that the musical personality in this one is going to come from, in addition to just the way the notes are written. Okay? If I can help you with any of this, if you want to come play with me, if you want to just ask some questions, come visit, send me an email, give me a call. My door is open. Good luck and happy practicing.